For the first time in the history of the Game Time Guru podcast, I choked up on an interview. You know what? I don't care. I'm not going to edit it out. You're going to see it. And while it may be somewhat embarrassing for me, I really don't care because it's part of the interview. And you'll see why. You're going to listen to this interview and you're going to hear this unbelievably inspirational and motivational story from our unbelievable guest. I cannot wait for you guys to listen to this. I'm serious. So stop what you're doing right now. Tune in. This is the Game Time Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Boom!
If you're sick of the mainstream sports outlets, well, so was I. So I started my own show. I'm Shane Larson, and this is the Game Time Guru. It's different than other talk shows. I'm providing a panoramic view on sports so you can see them through a different lens. So buckle up, and let's go. What's up, everyone? Welcome out to the Game Time Guru podcast. I am your host, Shane Larson. This week, just like all the other weeks, we are bringing on a phenomenal guest to share their unbelievable story. And before we get started today, I got to make sure you guys know where to find me. I would really appreciate it, guys, if you subscribe to my podcast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on any podcast platform that you're following on. And hey, if you're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts with an iPhone, hey, leave me a review if you got a chance. Now, listen up. We have been doing this podcast for 3 years now. And with every single guest we bring on, we try our hardest, our very, very hardest to show how sports can, help you in your life with the skill sets that you acquire. And we have people sharing their unbelievable stories from sports and then how that's actually helped them in their life. And today we have a really, really inspirational story. Boone Bartlome joins me here on the podcast. Boone, thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, good to be here.
So,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome, man. So we're going to allow Boone to kind of tell his story through this show, but just so you guys know, he's a local guy here in the Treasure Valley of Idaho. So if you're not from here, he's a local guy, pretty well known in the media here, and we're going to share why. But we're going to talk about his story, his background in sports, kind of what he's gone through in sports, and what he's doing now, the things he's learned and the things he's overcome, and the things that he's doing now. So it's actually a really, really cool story. So Boone, let's first start out with talking about your sports background when you were a child, right? When you were younger, when did you get introduced into the sport of football, and were there any other sports that you competed in at a young age?
Oh yeah, I was just your classic do it all, try it all kid. I mean, I was always weird. My parents always would get mad at me and stuff, even from 3, 4, 5 years old, because they would go out for Christmas and buy me all kinds of toys and remote control cars, and then they'd look out back and I'd just be throwing a baseball up and down in the backyard to myself, and they're like, why are we getting you all this stuff if you just want to play with baseballs and basketballs? So that drove them crazy, and I was like that from a young age, and I took sports very serious from a young age. I was always way more into it and understanding and knowledgeable about the game than kind of especially in those younger ages than the other kids, and I was just always way more into it. And so I don't know. I started playing sports as soon as I could, played baseball, ton of baseball growing up, football, basketball, rodeo. I mean, just anything and everything you could. I was in there doing it, playing it, and having a good time, learning all kinds of things. And so, yeah, sports have always been a part of my life.
You mentioned rodeo. Did you just say rodeo? Talk
to
us about that a little bit. Let's elaborate that. That's the first time we've heard that on the show. So you've been playing baseball. Right. You kind of had all the traditional quote-unquote sports, but rodeo. So talk to us about rodeo.
Rodeo, man. Rodeo. It's one of the funnest things you'll ever do. And it's kind of a tough thing to get into. I grew up around it. Both my parents, they met at Boise State on the rodeo team. And so my sister, my whole family's just rodeoed ever since I was little. I was 2 years old, get thrown up on a horse. But yeah, it's a great sport. It's I don't know, it's just a blast. It's hard to explain to people that don't know, that don't have that feeling, but it's fun. It's a lot of hard work. Just like any other sport, just not a lot of people get to hear about it. And I did that. I kind of got into it later than the rest of my family. Like I grew up and I was playing baseball a lot, and so I didn't have much time. My dad just kind of hung out with me. My sister was more the rodeo person, and I didn't get into it till probably 7th or 8th grade. And so I'm gonna sound cocky, but I always just been pretty natural at picking things up. And so my sister, she'd rodeoed since she was little, And I came in my first year in 8th grade and made it to nationals in the team roping, and I made it. I was like, I think me and my partner were like 17th in the nation, ended up first year rodeo, but yeah, it's a blast.
Man, that's so crazy. You know why I say that is because, like, I grew up playing sports my whole life, but I'm actually something that people probably don't know about me until right now. I'm terrified of horses. Okay. So, like, horses freak me out. And my wife, she grew up, with horses. So she always rode them her entire life and stuff. So when we go and visit her family, we always have to go and, see the horses, and they
Oh
freak
yeah.
me out. So, like, I commend anybody who's into rodeo and can, like, they use it. I love animals. I'm not mad at them by any means. I love them.
Yeah.
I like them more than people most of the time, but it's like, I'm terrified of horses just because I never know. They're just massive.
Yeah.
They're massive creatures. And the fact that you
Yeah.
did that, that's awesome, man. I did not know that piece of it. So that's cool. This is why we have you on the show, man, sharing that information. Now, so you obviously, you were an athlete in all forms and, facets, because you're doing traditional sports, you're doing rodeo, you're a natural at it, right? So you're picking this stuff up. Now, what would you say your best sport was? Like, where did you perform the best at, or were you pretty much equal across the board? Because you're a pretty good athlete.
Man, yeah, that's a tough one. It's hard to answer for me, like, as I don't, I don't know. I don't want to come off like a little cocky son of a gun, but I was just always very good. I was very good at, I don't know, just kind of naturally gifted. And, my friends always joke with me that, they hated me, but they loved me. And I mean, so like, what was my sophomore year of high school? I'd never done track a day in my life. And I went in, did track for 1 year, won 2 state championships, and like, I don't know, placed 4th in the high jump too or something, and like came in and broke a couple state records. And like, so I don't know, man. I would say probably baseball is what I had the most passion for the longest period of time. And that was probably where I excelled in my sports career the most over a lengthwise of time. But I mean, once I got into rodeo, I started hammering away at it and was kind of carving my way and getting up there into some better competition. But yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that fully. It just, I feel like I was a pretty well-versed athlete all around.
That's crazy. We call them all-purpose athletes, APA, all-purpose athletes. You had it all, man. That's awesome. Just real quick to touch base on that too, Boone. Obviously, I think some of it comes naturally if you have that passion and that drive. But as you get older, you get into the high school realm too. Like you're doing these sports to be able to consistently compete at that level. It takes a lot of work. So what was your your workouts? What was your practicing like when you got it to the as you started getting older and you started getting into the high school realm? How did you continue to perform at a high level like that?
Yeah. So in high school, I played baseball my freshman year. And then, so that year I was doing baseball and rodeo at the same time. And that's when I kind of figured out that, once you get into that higher level, it's a lot tougher to kind of be very competitive in 2 different things at the same time. And that's when I figured that out, because I was trying to do both, and school, and it kicked my butt there for a while. And so then I decided my sophomore year that I was just going to rodeo that next year. Well, and then I ended up doing track. So yeah, I guess that didn't make a lot of sense, but it definitely, you just gotta be self-motivated to get out there and put in the work and want it more than anybody else. If you want to be competitive at a high level, you have to understand that, there's kids on the other team that they're putting in the work, and you have to be willing to outwork them if you want to stay at an elite level and be competitive, highly competitive.
Totally, man. Totally. And we see that a lot, like through, especially high school sports, when you see these, young youth sports phenoms that are really good through, like, I'll use the Treasure Valley terminology. Like Optimist Football is pretty popular around here in the Treasure Valley. And
Yeah.
for anyone listening, that's kind of like the Pee Wee level, like that's whatever you want to call it. It's the youth football level up until about the last year of middle school for most kids. So they play through about, they got flag football for a couple of years, and they got about 4 years of tackle football for this thing we call Optimist Football. And so you'll see a lot of guys that go through Optimist Football, for instance, and they're phenoms. But as soon as they get into that, 8th, 9th grade level, where they're starting to hit the weights a little bit, and they're starting to see, now you got more competition coming in from all across the valley into the school and stuff like that. That's when the real work comes in, because you see the difference between natural ability and then those who have the natural ability as well as the work ethic is when they get into that next level. And so you were putting it all in, man. You had the natural ability, but you were putting the work in. You were doing all these sports and competing at each one of them at a very, very high level. You got into football and you went to a local high school, Kuna High School, correct?
Yep.
All right. So what position did you play in football?
Well, so I mean, throwing it back to Optimist, like you were saying, you know, I would say I was that kid that excelled highly in my Optimist career. You know, I played everything then. You know, of course, when you're young, you play anywhere and everywhere that you got to.
Right.
And then I took a break. I didn't play my 7th grade year, played my 8th grade year, and then I didn't play again until my junior year of high school. And so when I was in high school, I was playing wide receiver because I was fast and pretty tall, and so perfect fit and could catch a ball. So they stuck me there, and I that's where I played all my high school career.
For sure, man.
Well,
So you're
for 1 year.
You're at the wide receiver position, and this is where I want everyone to pay attention. You know, if you're listening to this right now, I need you to stop and pay attention. This is like the conversation where, you know, Boone's excelling. He's excelling in all these sports, and, you know, sometimes things are out of your control, right? And in the sports world, things happen, and it's a difficult thing to have happen. And, you know, your high school, I remember at Kuna, was that not the year where you guys kind of like surprised some people, right? Because you guys you had a new coach coming in and the system was getting changed up a little bit, and you guys the culture was changing. Talk to us about that year, you know, up until the state playoffs. So talk to us about that season and what the expectations were and what you guys actually accomplished up until the state playoffs.
Yeah. So Kuna before then was not what you would consider a competitive football team in the Valley very much. And so Lee Leslie, a head coach, he came in, I believe he came in my sophomore year and kind of started getting some traction, flipping the program around. We had our first winning season in, I don't remember, like 10 years or something, long time, my sophomore year. So then our junior year, I came out and played, and we had a really good season. We were winning games against big teams that nobody would have expected us to, and we were doing really good. Made the state playoffs for the first time in a long time, and had some traction going for us for sure.
Yeah, see, just so you guys know, Coach Leslie's so I work with 2 of Coach Leslie's sons at my full-time job. And I actually worked with Coach Leslie at a different company right before he took the job at Kuna High School. For anybody who's listening, Coach Leslie is well known for being able to come into a program and get that program to excel, but not taking a lot of time to do it. He can do it quickly. He has a skill set that is unique. And that's what I kind of remember with Kuna, Boone, is like you guys, like I remember talking to him, and hopefully I can get him on the show too one day to talk about his experience as a coach, because he does this all the time. But I remember talking to him, and I won't say where, but it was a funny conversation in the bathroom, if you will. I will say where, at the bathroom, at my other job. And I remember, you know, just saying, "Hey, coach, congratulations on taking the job, blah, blah, blah." And I remember him telling me to watch out for Kuna, not in 2 years, not in 3 years, but that next season when he was taking over. So like you said, the first year he took over, he kind of got you guys shifted, and then it went immediately. So I remember always having that in the back of my mind, keeping an eye on Kuna High School, because Coach Leslie said, "Hey, pay attention, because it's not going to be a couple of years down the road. We're going to change this thing immediately." And I kept an eye on it, and I'm watching you guys. Your junior year, right? You guys are you're in the state playoffs, and this is the year. I think it was the first game, if I'm not mistaken. It was early November. Maybe you guys can correct me on that, but talk to us about that game and what ended up happening in that game.
Yeah, so that was our first game, state playoffs, November 7th or 8th or something like that. Yeah, early November. It was just a normal game. You know, we were playing one of our big rivals, BK, everybody's rival in the Treasure Valley, basically. But we were playing them. We had not beat them in. I couldn't even tell you what the numbers are there, but I don't remember the last time we ever beat BK in football. And earlier that season, we had a good run at them. We it was a real close game. Ended up losing just by a little bit right at the end. And first game of the state playoffs, we went out and everything was normal. It was I was talking to my parents the other night about it. I had a super weird feeling before the game. Just like the whole night just felt different to me for some reason. Like I remember the weather was saying it was supposed to be pretty nasty out. And I just remember right before the game, I was thinking it was a beautiful night, like just super calm, still. And I just remember never feeling like that before a game all season. Just, I felt super calm, just like everything was, I don't know, just different somehow. Didn't know how. But yeah, early in the first quarter, we're doing all right. We're hanging in there. And so then this where took a turn for the worst for me. I ended up, so I was playing wide receiver and I went in to make a block on a guy, ended up tripping real weird. And as I was falling, I hit my chin on our running back's knee as I was falling down, broke my C4 and C5 vertebrae in my neck, left me paralyzed from the neck down. Just sat there laying on the field, couldn't get up, tried moving one time. Nothing happened. I was like, well, that's weird. Tried one more time to get up. Nothing happened. Sat there and waited, and everyone came, got me stabilized, and that was the beginning of my whole new life.
It's super, man, just hearing you say that kind of gives me goosebumps and makes me like super sad because I remember this happening. It was all over the news, and you talking about it from your perspective as the one that it was happening to is just so crazy to hear it from your perspective, man. It's insane. You're laying there, Boone, and you said you tried to move twice. Talk to us about that. Did you have any emotion at the time, or were you kind of just in a shell shock moment? Did you have a little bit of fear when you realized you were trying to move and you couldn't?
No, it was weird. I just had no clue what was going on. I mean, up until this point in my life, the only thing I've ever had bad happen to me is I broke my hand roping at a rodeo one time. That was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So I was just super confused, really, like had no thought of what was going on, really. I just knew something wasn't right. And so I remember I was just kind of in shell shock, just didn't really know what to do, I was super calm. I don't know. Everybody tells me that like I handled it. I mean, I don't remember much from the night, but like everyone says that I was just like talking to everyone, pretty calm, not stressed out, not freaked out. I was just answering all the medics' questions, and just they were like, "You handled it well." And I was like, I don't remember much from it, but yeah, it was I would think I was just so shocked that didn't really understand what was happening, and so couldn't really. I just wasn't processing it at the moment.
Totally. I can only imagine. Obviously, I've never been there before, but I can only imagine just like everything happening. But it's super cool that you were able to just kind of like relax for a second to say, okay, just handle what was happening in the moment. You were able to handle that. I have heard stories from other interviews that, people have said that you handled it extremely well. So that's awesome, man. Now, you mentioned paralyzed from the neck down. When the doctors first told you that, Boone, and you first heard that for the very first time, tell us your emotions that went through you there and what your thought process was.
Yeah, so I was laying in the hospital and just woke up, and they were telling me what was going on. I don't even remember really having conversations with my doctors or anything about like anybody coming in and saying, you're paralyzed, whatever. I don't really remember anything like that. I just remember kind of for about 2 weeks just rolling through the motions every day, trying to figure out what was going on. Like I wasn't even concerned about, I had no thoughts about really the future. I had no thoughts about, wow, I'm paralyzed from my neck down, never going to be able to move again, never going to be able to play sports, never going to be able to, I never had any of those thoughts for like the first 2 or 3 weeks after I got hurt. I had so much support. I mean, the hospital was flooded with people to come see me. And so I just kept kind of busy with my friends and my family and slept a lot, and just, so I never really processed that in a harsh way. I never had that thought of, oh man, the doctors told me I'm paralyzed and I'm never going to move again, and got down. Like I just never had that connection in those first 3 weeks. For me, it was just, so I've always been a really positive guy in general. And I would say there's probably a handful of people outside of my family that have really seen me down, like sad, upset about things. And so like, I don't know, when I was in the hospital, I was just like making it my goal to make sure everybody knew that I still had my sense of humor. Because as soon as they would walk in, I would just start cracking jokes and talking about how the nurses had to cut my clothes off because they just wanted me so bad and blah, blah, blah. And so I was just cracking jokes, trying to make sure everybody was understanding that I was still me, you know, like I was no different. I hadn't changed my personality, you know, and that was kind of what I focused on for the first 3 weeks, just people coming to visit me and just making sure I was staying positive and keeping them from feeling like they had to be different around me, you know?
Totally, man. That's super inspiring, man. It's just super, super inspiring just hearing how you are, man. It's like I'm sitting here just like embracing this as we talk. So while we're recording this, everybody, as you can see, when you're watching this now, this episode, like I have to explain like the way that I feel inside. It's crazy. It's hard for me to like even talk because I'm like getting choked up. So wow, dude, it's like it's crazy to hear what you do, man. So you, I apologize, guys, man. This is the first time it's ever happened on my show. I'm like, dude, I'm just listening to your story. It's super inspiring. Super, super cool, man. So you go through all that, man. And like what you guys are watching right now is so awesome. This is why I wanted to bring Boone on the show, because you're talking about paralyzed from the neck down. But wait a second, Boone's sitting here on the show. He's talking. He seems fine. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Talk to us about this process in the last, what it's been 7 years almost now. So it has almost
About, yeah, 6.5,
years.
7 years. Yeah.
Talk to us about this process and where you're at now, because that, to me, man, when I see you on like your Instagram pages and your Facebook pages and you're actually doing what you can to work out and stuff like that, I am just flabbergasted. I am in complete awe at how you are doing now compared to then, because you just took it step by step. So can you tell us about this process of how you got there?
Yeah. So basically I think it was 3 weeks after I got hurt, I went to a specialized therapy hospital in Denver, Colorado called Craig Hospital. And all they deal with is spinal cord injuries and brain injuries. And so I went there and made huge progress right off the bat. I mean, when I say huge progress, and I mean, I'm talking like they taught me how to feed myself and like do basic daily living. How am I going to take care of myself and be independent? And so I went there and did great. Got a lot of strength, got a lot of knowledge. Came back with the attitude of, you know, after learning more about spinal cord injuries and being able to process what was happening to me, you know, basically the doctor's results. And at that time, it was already proven that the doctors were a little bit wrong about, not wrong, but so basically when the doctors tell me, you know, hey, they basically said, don't expect to get much function back or feeling, because that's how spinal cord injuries are. There's just no way of telling. Every case is so different. I mean, I know plenty of people with my same exact injury that have way less than me. So there's just no telling case to case. So they basically just prepare everybody for the worst and hope for the best, you know? And so after I got all that processed, I just went in with the mindset of, well, they're telling me that I could get things back, but not to expect it. And so I just went in with the thought process of, okay, well, whatever I do get back, I'm going to work that as hard as I can to make sure it's, you know, I'm strengthening whatever I do get back as much as I can. And so I've taken that and just kind of ran with it. And over these last, I mean, I started hitting the gym again pretty aggressively. I don't know, 2.5 years ago, maybe, while I was going to Boise State, and then met some guys here locally that have been helping me out, Caleb Redden and Eric Cafferty, that have really been just propelling me into some serious gains. And so it's been a slow, long process. You know, I've just slowly over the years kind of got back function. I mean, you know, I can stand up, I can walk around with canes a little bit now. And I just slowly get all this back, and I just focus on it and work out that part of my body as hard as I can, and just make sure I'm constantly doing everything in my capability to ensure that I'm getting the most back. Like you said earlier, you know, there's things you can't control, like the injury I couldn't control, but I've been making sure ever since then, everything that I can control, that I'm doing all I can to control it. You know, I can control me getting out of bed every day and getting in the gym and grinding and trying to get things back. I can control that. And so that's kind of a empowerment thing just for myself, you know, is like, I don't have to let this injury write my story for me. I can get up and say, hey, I'm going to do everything in my control to make sure I'm trying to achieve the goals that I have set for myself.
I love it, man. I think it's so cool. Like, you can tell the competitor in you too. Like, just from your whole life, you got this personality. You're a competitor. You're an athlete. And so when you get that ability, that functionality, that mobility to, like, to some part of your body, you just went 100% in and said, okay, I'm going to do what I can here. And then, as like you just said, other stuff comes back. You got that competitor in you, and you just keep going, keep going, keep going. And again, like I
Yeah.
told you, man, I see it, and I'm like, I just see, I'm like, holy cow, what? It just, like, I'm seeing you bench press, man. Like,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like, to me, I'm like, holy crap. Based, like, if you were flashback 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago, you would never have thought that just at the moment, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, you
I
see
mean,
some
that
stories.
was a big one for me. Like the bench pressing and stuff. All this gym stuff, because my hands still don't work very well at all. And so all this gym stuff has just been trial and error. I got a whole bag of arsenals of things that I strap onto my hands to help me grab bars and barbells and dumbbells. And I got all kinds of adaptive equipment in there to help me lift. And bench press, I was just, I don't know, it was probably year and a half ago was the first time I tried it since I'd been hurt. And I was doing the bars, 45 pounds, like 5 reps at a time. And that was like max I could do pushing it. That was my all in. And so that's been kind of the funnest progression for me to see, because it's been easier to see the strength progression in that than I get to see in a lot of my body, just because it's so, it's so measurable. And so I think, the last max I did was 135. And that was a big one for me. I was super excited about that. And now it's probably more now. I just haven't maxed. But yeah, so that's been a fun one for me to be able to actually just see the daily improvement, just day by day, week by week, actually have a measurable. And that's been what's fired me up, get in the gym, stuff like that. Is just when you see progress like that and you're motivated, it just fires you up to keep going and not stop.
I dig it, man. I dig it. You guys, if you're not following him, I would suggest to go do so. If this is the first time you're hearing Boone's story, like, it is super, super inspiring, man. That's why I'm bringing him onto this show. This is just, it's so cool. I'm thinking about it as you're talking, Boone, and it's like, yeah, you said you have an arsenal of stuff to, like, get, wrap your hands around everything to make sure that you can at least, grab the barbells, do all the weight stuff. But you adjust. I mean, it's like a sport. It's a sports analogy in and of itself, because a quarterback gets up to the line. They got X amount of seconds to call the play and get the ball snap. But hey, they made the play call in the huddle. All of a sudden, the defense comes out with their new scheme, and they're like, this isn't going to work. Where we're going to go. We need to adjust. Call an audible. Do what you got to do, but you figure it out and you adjust. You make a shift at the line. Make sure the line's blocking differently. Whatever it may be at the high level of football, it's kind of the same concept. You're able to adjust. Like, okay, well, I don't have full function of my hands yet, and but I can still use this and this to kind of help me get that to work with what I want to do and accomplish this and this. And that's what I think is amazing.
Yep.
Now, Boone, tell us real quick to wrap this up, man. I mean, it's been such an awesome interview. I just want to know, like, what's in store for Boone Bartlome in the next couple of years? Where do you expect to be, and where can we expect to see you? Like, what do we expect to see from you?
Yeah. So, I'll keep grinding away in the gym. I've been tossing around the idea with a couple guys, getting into some powerlifting stuff, try to do some stuff with some bench pressing, see if I can shake up the old quadriplegic world of weightlifting a little bit. So that would be fun. And then, I started this clothing brand called All Try. That's kind of the epitome of my life, is just being all try, just going in 100% effort, 100% at everything you do, refusing to quit even when obstacles get in your way. And so I've just been kind of doing that lately, and I hope to have that catch on a little bit, just to help motivate and inspire people, that whether you're trying to achieve a goal or you're trying to overcome an obstacle in life, that, as long as you put your mind to it and put in the work and keep your attitude positive, there's nothing you can't do and nothing you can't achieve. And so that, I hope here in the next few years that it kind of grows a little bit. But other than that, I just keep working on myself, keep grinding, keep trying to put the doctor's diagnosis to shame every day, and just keep bettering myself,
I dig it, man. I love it. I love the mentality. Love your personality. Where can we get more information on All Try? Where can I get one of those shirts, and where can my listeners find you?
Yes, sir. So Instagram, underscore at underscore all try. Facebook, just all try. You can look up my personal page, Boone underscore Bartlome, or on Facebook, Boone Bartlome. Just look me up anywhere. I'll try the website, www.all-try.com. And you can get some merch, get some sweet merch, become part of the All Try family, just, it's been, I don't know, this message to me is just important for people, and it is just resonates to me so much because I heard it a lot growing up in rodeo, just something that I don't know why, but the rodeo community is all about having try. And that's what, a lot of rough stock riders and stuff. That was just what it is. As long as you got try, you got a chance. And so you just got to and just having tried just means having heart, putting in the effort, giving 100%, and great things will happen. So.
All right, man. We're going to put those links in the description. I'm going to get me a shirt. Everybody should go check it out. I'll make sure I put every one of those links here in the description of the show. So you guys, if you're listening to this, make sure to go hit it up. I love it. Boone, thank you so much for joining the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as well. But yeah, once again, Boone, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. It was a good time.
Absolutely. And you guys know the drill. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. If you enjoyed this, share it with your friends and family. Leave me a review if you can, and go follow Boone as well. Take care, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.